Hey everyone, it's Yan, and for today's video, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to be going over the costs I've experienced starting low dose testosterone. And if you'd rather hear stories or changes I've experienced on testosterone, I have other videos for that. Completely understandable if you just want to click past this one. I've been on testosterone for over a month and a half, but I have taken the costs I've experienced and extrapolated them to calculate that the first year I'll be on testosterone low dose, it'll cost about $1,188. But every year after that, it will actually only cost around $573. And you may notice that that's quite a bit of difference between the two. If you just wanted the numbers, feel free to click away, but I actually want to explain how I got here and some context surrounding my situation. The first year costs, over half is coming from labs. So lab tests include blood count, metabolism, cholesterol, hormones. After your first year being on testosterone, you're not getting nearly as many lab tests or appointments, so that cost goes way down, and over 70% of what you're paying for is the prescription itself. I'm in the US in Texas, and I'm not using any insurance whatsoever. I know that's a question I see a lot about the affordability of hormone therapy. So these numbers don't include insurance. I'm also getting my medical provider and counseling services from a public college. So while I am paying for the prescription and supplies and appointments and labs, I actually am not paying extra costs for the counseling that I'm getting from attending this public college. It's really recommended that you get counseling before, during, and honestly after once you start it. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to get counseling since 4 years ago when I first came out as non-binary and transgender, on and off as I needed it, and definitely before taking testosterone for the first time, I had counseling 2 months leading up to it and after it. Since the majority of the cost is going to be from your prescription after you finish your first year, I figured I'd include details about mine since I am on a low dose. Other people may be on lower doses or higher doses. Another thing that can make a really big difference is how you're getting your testosterone. There are gels. I take mine through intramuscular injection. There's subcutaneous injection. My testosterone is in a strength of 100 milligrams per milliliter, and it comes in a 10 milliliter vial. Something interesting about that is I don't end up using the whole entire vial with my weekly injections. I actually end up having to dispose of the vial before I finish using all the testosterone because it goes bad after a month. The reason that I end up doing this is because it's actually cheaper to order it this way, and it's what my medical provider recommended. So every single week, I'm doing my injections that are 0.25 milliliters. And because there's 100 milligrams per milliliter, I end up getting 25 milligrams of the testosterone every single week. So I really like visuals when I'm looking at costs, and these two pie charts really helped me understand the difference of what kind of costs I was getting into. I've separated costs into 4 main categories. You have your testosterone prescription, which can vary widely. You have labs, which depending on your medical provider, you may have more or less labs than I'm going to be experiencing. You have your syringes and needles if you are taking testosterone through subcutaneous or intramuscular injection, and then just general appointments. So the first year you can see that labs make up a large portion, but by the annual it goes way down. Testosterone really doesn't change between the two. You're going to be taking the same amount no matter what. The same thing goes for syringes and needles. That green section, it really stays around $50 to $70. And the reason that it fluctuates a little bit is because I think it depends on how many needles and syringes you get at one time. So you may actually end up ordering more than you need for a year's worth or a little bit less. It's not always perfect. And appointments do go down after taking your first year of T. So right here is really what I think of as the explanation between the huge difference. It was about $600, $615 cheaper from the first year to every year after. My schedule that I'm going to be on for my first year for labs is you need to have labs taken before you start taking testosterone, then 1 month after you start taking it, 3 months later after that, and 6 months later after that. On top of that, you're also going to appointments. So the model my medical provider uses is a informed consent model, where I essentially went in and had an appointment to talk about my history, who I was, my medical history. And I had seen this person 3 years before, about 3.5 years before, so they already kind of knew who I was, which might have sped up the process a little bit. After you order your first prescription, you have an appointment with a nurse or someone to help give you your first injection and show you the steps to do it. And after that, you can have as many appointments as you need until you can demonstrate you know how to self-inject in a safe way. And after that, there are a couple appointments here and there just to talk over your progress, because the 3 and 6 month lab marks are spread out quite a bit more, just to make sure that everything's okay and you're not experiencing any problems. All of that in the first year, and then once you've gone through this process, every year after that, it's actually an annual lab and an annual appointment. So a lot of the costs go way down just because of that. And finally, just as a reference sheet, I put together this average cost table where my testosterone's right at the top. Okay, there is a small typo. It is a 10 milliliter vial, not a 1 milliliter vial. So 10 milliliter vial. Lab tests really do vary, because sometimes they only have you taking blood count and metabolic, but not your cholesterol. And you don't, at least for me, start getting your hormone levels tested until the 3-month lab test. So those kind of go a little bit all over the place. The average is $80. General appointments, $30. And here we are with the syringes and the 2 needles that I use. Again, sometimes they're ordered in packs of 30, sometimes more, sometimes less. So those dollar amounts aren't always exact. And if you're wondering why there are 2 needles listed, you can go ahead and watch my first injection and self-injection video, and there will be much more in-depth explanation there. I know this is a quick one, but it was something that I thought was really important. I didn't know what to expect for costs, because I could look up individual costs sometimes for items on this list, but I never saw it laid out in a comprehensive timeline, so I could have a better understanding between the first year and following years and month intervals. So I hope this helps someone out or just give you a frame of reference. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you later.